YouTube, how's it going? The Godows is back. Today we're going through every NFL team and I'm giving you their best defensive fit for the NFL draft using first round prospects in my opinion. But we will be talking about the teams that do not have first round picks. So we're going to use prospects that could be first round players but also could slide a little bit. Maybe these teams trade up for them. So we did the same thing for offensive prospects. That video is already up. You can check it out. We'll do like a day 2 video as well for those types of prospects. We have constant NFL content going on right now. We'll also be live during the NFL draft. So join us, like, subscribe to notifications on so you don't miss that live stream. And then live analysis day 2 and 3 on our Twitter. So link pinned in the comments for that. Twitter subs get bonus content, including the podcast every single week. We have a TikTok now. I've been uploading a lot of shorts here on the channel. Links pinned in the comments for our Discord and our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Walk the Mock, some cool stuff there. But to be clear, this is not a mock draft. We'll start with the Panthers, though. Sometimes people get confused. It's just the best fits video. The players will be used multiple times sometimes in this because teams could have the same best fit. Should make sense. Some people don't understand it. But for the Panthers, I want Will McDonald. I mean, let's be honest. With the first overall pick, they're going quarterback. Doesn't really matter in this point which quarterback you think it's going to be. It's going to be a quarterback. So looking for a player that has first round talent, in my opinion, but maybe could slide a little bit to the Panthers in the second round, or the Panthers could trade up in the end of the first. There's always those teams that do that and grab that player. I like Will McDonald as a fit. Again, I think he has some first round talent in him. I think he would fit Ejiro Evero's defense as like a stand-up pass rusher, which did a little bit of both at Iowa State, but I felt like they had him in the wrong scheme, almost playing him out of position, 3-man rush, rushing over or inside the tackle sometimes, and he was good doing that. But, now just get him in the right fit where he's mainly standing up off the edge, and he can go to work. Very athletic, and also drop in coverage as well. So I like the fit for the Panthers, and it's a guy maybe if he starts to slide a little bit, do they try to trade up because he is kind of a sort of a first-round talent in some people's minds there. Next, I'm going to go with Tyree Wilson for the Texans. Now, this doesn't mean I think they're taking him second overall, or if they pass on a quarterback, they take Wilson over Anderson. I'm not necessarily saying that. I think Will Anderson, just plain and simple, regardless of fit, especially when you're at the top, the best of the best, there's not a long list of elite players. Regardless of fit, Will Anderson, if you're not taking quarterback and you're deciding between Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson, and it's just between those two at pick 2, you have to take Will Anderson. Just that much of a difference in, elite potential at Will Anderson. Wilson has a lot of upside, a lot of potential, decent player. But in terms of fit, I am kind of banking on the Texans. And again, this is not a mock draft, but I am kind of banking on the Texans going quarterback at 2. And you look at their next pick in the first round. Maybe they have to move up a little bit for Tyree Wilson. I'm starting to think, maybe the media's hyping him up a little much. I know there's a lot to like with his length, but he could slide a little tiny bit. So I do think it's realistic where the Texans pick, at 12. But I like the fit of Wilson and DeMeco Ryans' defense. This is a fit video, and I love the fit. And in terms, Tyree Wilson off the edge, I don't know. His tape isn't elite. Like, wow, he's in the conversation with Will Anderson, in my opinion, and just strictly off the edge. Mainly because he doesn't explode off the ball. Now, sometimes we could sit here all day and talk about, Texas Tech had him kind of sitting and reading sometimes, but he definitely needs to explode off the ball a little bit better. Get off is very important when it comes to the edge rushers, but he's almost an interior defensive lineman, Wilson, in an edge rusher's body. With his power and the play style that he has, and then the length, it says more edge rusher, but he can use that length to beat up guards. So I think he needs to be used as a versatile defensive lineman to be that elite upside that everyone keeps saying. If he's stuck out in the edge, I don't really like that, So I kind of think of DeMeco Ryans, what he did with Armstead, who's kind of a big, lengthy defensive end, like powerful defensive end that slides in and plays like 3 technique quite a bit, and then that unique 49ers defense. That's what that nobody's really going to say that. It's kind of going to be an uncommon take, but I think that is what Wilson needs to be to get the most out of him. If a team gets him just to play him off the edge, I don't really love it. It depends on where they draft him, but people are talking about like top 5, top 7, somewhere around that range. If you're taking him there, just stick him off the edge. Uncommon take, but I don't really like it. I don't really love the pick. But if they're taking him around there and they're going to do a bit of both and kind of play that role, which I'm talking about, what D'Amico Ryans could be looking for, then I absolutely love it. So that's where I'm at with Wilson. Really depends on who takes him and where. I guess that applies to a lot of players, but I do really, really like the fit. But that doesn't mean they're taking him at 2. It doesn't mean they should take him over Will Anderson, because Will Anderson is just easily a better edge rusher. Just talking about purely an edge rusher. Just right now, I'm gonna go an Anderson there. But I do like the fit for the reasons I explained. The Cardinals. It's a tricky one, too, because I could very easily put Will Anderson here because it came out this morning that there's a lot of teams, which is not a surprise, a lot of teams calling about the 3rd overall pick, about trading for it. And the Cardinals are kind of waiting. They need an offer that blows them away because they could be taking an elite talent in Will Anderson at 3, So they might stay put. They might stay put, and they might take Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson fits pretty much anybody. Honestly, I guess he could fit more teams than others, but he fits pretty much scheme-wise. Whether he's standing up, on the line, in the dirt, I think he fits anybody. So the Cardinals very well could take Will Anderson, and it's understandable. You take him over Gonzalez, it's understandable. But if we're talking in terms of just pure fit, Gonzalez makes a lot of sense in Jonathan Gannon's defense, and especially if the Cardinals trade back a little bit. It's going to blow a lot of people's mind if they take Gonzalez at 3, but it honestly I wouldn't be like, whoa, yeah, if Will Anderson's on the board still and you take Gonzalez, it'd be a little surprising, but I think other people would be insane, super shocked. Something that's possible, I'd say. Gannon values the cornerback position very much. Saw that with Philadelphia. I think those corners actually created for everything else. I think it's usually different in other defenses, but that's how it was in Philly. And, Reddick was a beast, obviously, but I think those lockdown corners, being able to mix up the coverage, being able to play press zone, press man, non-press, was fantastic. Gannon comes from a defensive background as well. Christian Gonzalez, with his ability to play zone and man, but ability to play press in both of those, all of the above, mainly zone actually, but playing that press zone makes teams think they're playing man. Are they in man? Are they in zone? He's pressing. He's good at pressing. He's very athletic. What's going on here? That's your ideal corner for today's NFL, being able to disguise things. And I think Jonathan Gannon would love that. On top of Gonzalez is just pure talent too. So I think it's a tremendous fit. I'm not saying they must go Gonzalez over Anderson. I'm not saying they absolutely will either, but it's just in terms of fit, what stands out more, and also very realistic, whether it's at 3 or trading back a little bit, is Christian Gonzalez for the Arizona Cardinals. And the Colts, I actually have the same thing. Again, this is just defensive fits video. I think a lot of us think they're going quarterback, but nobody ever throws out the scenario of, what if their quarterback is off the board and then they don't want to reach for they don't want the other quarterbacks? They could stay put and they could take a player. They can trade back and they could take a player. They get more picks because maybe they're in that retool stage. They definitely are. But I think Gonzalez is a possibility at 4 or maybe a slight trade back. Maybe. It starts to become interesting with the Cardinals. How far do you want to trade back if you want a guy like Gonzalez? So it's very interesting. But the Colts traded away Stephon Gilmore, aging man corner. Gus Bradley, second year as defense coordinator with the Colts. He likes to run his cover 3. He likes to usually run a bit more of it than he ran last year, even though he ran a decent amount. Gonzalez is coming from, mainly playing zone with Oregon, but did play man, and he has experience in pressing and playing off as well. So I definitely think he can fit in cover 3. He's really good in zone because he actually will leave his zone to go make a play on the ball where the quarterback just doesn't see him, and those are your scary good type of corners. So I could see that actually. Another option, this isn't really to do with this video, but if the Colts, like I said, if their quarterback is off the board, what do they do? And if they trade back, or they can target a corner, but maybe they look at a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Different video because this is defensive players, but just a thought if they move back a little bit. Seattle, I'm going to go Will Anderson. I think it's a tremendous fit. Again, like I said, Will Anderson can pretty much fit any scheme because I think he can play 3-4 edge or 4-3 edge. There's some guys that I feel in this draft, they're mostly pretty versatile, but a lot of times there's guys I like only in this scheme and that scheme. I think he could fit any one, but Seahawks were kind of always more of that 4-3 with maybe a Leo on one side, but they kind of switched to more of a 3-4 this past season. They're gonna roll with that, but it's good having Will Anderson, who has experience kind of playing both, like on the line, hand in the dirt, and standing up. I like him a little bit better standing up. seems to show more of his explosiveness, his athleticism that way. And it's really what the Seahawks need out there. And I could have went Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter would fit well on the D-line. You know, I should say opposite of Draymond Jones, because you got the nose tackle in between the two. Then Draymond Jones 3-4 end, and then Jalen Carter D tackle. But Anderson makes a lot of sense as a fit. Would they have to trade up to 3 to get him? Could they stay put at 5 and get him? That's definitely possible as well. And then for the Lions, I'm also going to go with Will Anderson as just a tremendous fit. I actually thought about TYREE Wilson here because Lions need help stopping the run. He's a very good run-stopping defensive end. He's also, you know, stays, you know, doesn't get like sucked inside, you know, wins the outside. And that is kind of what the Lions need help with as well. And they can use some help on the interior. And like I said, TYREE Wilson, I think, actually has a lot of upside playing inside. You know, and he did a little bit of it at Texas Tech, but maybe a little early, in my opinion, depending on how they're going to use them. But Will Anderson and the Lions kind of mix it up a bit, too. Sometimes you see Hutchinson on the line, hand in the dirt, sometimes standing up a little bit, more so on the line, hand in the dirt. But Anderson can kind of do a bit of that as well. And I think, sticking with the Lions, like pretty good young roster. If they added, you know, like if Will Anderson was gone and they added TYREE Wilson, another pick later in the first round, or if they added Will Anderson and maybe they surrendered a second-round pick and they're still able to pick in the first round instead, like that scenario, that's more of a win now. Like if the Lions got their hands on Will Anderson, I mean, I think some people are already talking about them in favor of the NFC North, but I mean, they would probably really be, and not to take anything away from the other teams because they can definitely compete, but I mean, that'd be scary, you know. So Will Anderson with Aiden Hutchinson. I know some of those fans don't really not in love with maybe taking a pass rusher. Maybe they think they're set there, but I mean, this is a way to get that much better, in my opinion. Could they trade up to 3? I think it's a possibility, actually. Raiders, yeah, back and forth between Christian Gonzalez and Devon Witherspoon. I mean, they are different, you know, because Witherspoon played more man coverage. He's a little more physical. But you say Witherspoon's more physical, but Gonzalez has a little bit better press technique and staying, you know, sticky and coverage off the press. He's also played a lot more press. And Gonzalez can be better in press, and he's going to be better in zone coverage. Witherspoon's going to be more physical. Probably can argue who's better in man coverage. I think Witherspoon gets more of the, you know, the talk when it comes to man coverage, understandable. So it's pretty tough, either one. Patrick Graham's defense coordinator of the Raiders. I'm a fan of him. I think you can call it defense. He usually likes to run man, but he could mix it up a little bit. That kind of made me want to go Gonzalez. The press ability kind of made me want to go Gonzalez, but he does really want to run more and more man, and he does like the physical corners, the guys that'll come up and hit you. So I went with Witherspoon there, but really, there's some teams where it's like, yes, I like Gonzalez better, and there's some teams like I like Witherspoon better. The Raiders are kind of in the middle there, so that's kind of a good thing. But I'll go Witherspoon, the Illinois corner for them, who is the measurables he came back a little smaller than how he plays. It's kind of a good thing that he plays bigger than he is on tape. But he was super athletic his pro day, and we know it's a guy that flies around the football field a ton. Raiders badly need a corner. Wondering if McDaniels is going to take over and just try to build this offense up, but they need defense so badly. Like, this is looking like one of the worst defenses on the in football on paper at the moment. Not saying it will be the worst, but they gotta help that defense out. And then we'll talk about Christian Gonzalez again. Will he be there at this point? At one point, we're like, yeah, Falcons, Christian Gonzalez, he should be there, but that should be the pick. But now it's like, I don't know if he'll be there, But we're talking about defensive guys, so offensive guys could push some of these guys back. But yeah, I mean, tremendous fit to create potentially the elite duo of the future at the cornerback position. Him and AJ Terrell, lengthy, athletic corners, both very good in man and zone. Both playmakers and lockdown guys at the same time, like rare type of corners. Just creating that solid cornerback duo that can make the rest of your defense better. And they do need edge pretty badly. But, yeah, Ryan Nielsen coming from the Saints, now the Falcons defense coordinator, always valued the cornerbacks. The Saints always value those cornerbacks big time. And Gonzalez, maybe some similarities to Marshawn Lattimore. I think they'll see some shades of that, the comparison there. So I think they'll be big fans of Christian Gonzalez. Now it's starting like, do they have to move up a tiny bit to get him? Is it worth it? They stay put because there's got to be somebody good on the board there when they're picking. The Bears, I'm going to go Jalen Carter. Eberflus definitely is valued in the past. The interior defensive line, looking at DeForest Buckner on the Colts, they made a move for him quite a few years ago. I always valued that actually more than the edge position, which the Bears could use both. But they very well could use. I kind of been leaning towards Paris Johnson, so that's who it was for the offensive video. Spoiler. So which route do they go? The good news is there's some pretty decent fits. The bad news is you need both these so much. But Carter would be a really good fit. Again, Eberflus is going to value the interior. He's going to value stopping the run first. We want to be out, and they were really bad stopping the run. So we got to get better stopping the run. We want to stop the run first, force the pass, then worry about that, which there's a lot of defensive coaches that's kind of their philosophy there. But Carter, he's an elite talent. It's just the off-the-field issues that could kind of push him back a little bit, but he's a ridiculous talent that will be able not only will take on double teams to help the rest of the defense, but will actually beat double teams too. So one of those types of players, which if you can find those guys in the interior, which it used to be rare, but there's quite a few of them, not quite a few, but there's some of them now, and they're complete game changers. So you have an opportunity, and there's a pretty big drop off too from Carter to, and guy like Brian Bruzzi is a good player, but there's a pretty big drop off there. So I like Carter as a fit. A little bit what the Bears need, but that Eberflus type defense there. Eagles, I can go with a number of guys for the Eagles. I mean, there's some corners that I really like as a fit, but maybe they brought both Bradbury and Slay back on big contracts, so maybe more likely. I tried to go with maybe they were more likely to go with perhaps, but I like Myles Murphy a lot. Even though he's been getting some hype and people are aware he's a good player, I do actually think he slept on a little bit up here. I think maybe he should go earlier. It depends on who's on the board, who's not. But physical defensive end, very athletic for his size and his power, can stop the run instantly. He needs to develop a lot more of a rush plan and pass rush moves, but he also can even without that, he can make an instant impact in terms of a pass rusher because he's so powerful, and with his reach and his get off is just incredible. So I think the Eagles, maybe what they thought they were going to get in like a Robert Quinn, that style of pass rusher, obviously a lot different in age and maybe athleticism because of the age, but maybe a guy that did, because Hassan Reddick is a little different style. I think they want to have something a little different, and they have Brandon Graham, so maybe like another Brandon Graham type who's probably going to play one more year with the Eagles. So Myles Murphy for them. The Titans, there is a few fits from the edge position that I like for the Titans, but they're just very likely to go offense, maybe in the first couple or few rounds actually. But Nolan Smith, Will McDonald, like BJ Ojulari is a fit, but we might be talking about him as like a day two guy. But I went with Nolan Smith here. Again, they're more likely to use on offense, but Nolan Smith is a pretty good fit. Off the edge, athletic guy off the edge, which they'll like, and he can drop in coverage. Actually did it a bit for Georgia and Tennessee. We'll actually do that a little bit with their pass rushers. So that made sense to me. Nolan Smith's weird. Like, he can go this early around this part of the draft. Again, I think the Titans go offense, but he could go around this. He could go around this part because how athletic he is, and he has so much upside, and he can stop the run. But I also can see him sliding. Does he start to slide? Does he make it to the second round? I wouldn't rule it out. Maybe the Titans move up because I like him as a fit then, because he injured in the second half of last year. He's on the thinner side, but plays bigger than his size. He's mainly in the run game, which is weird because it's not really the case usually for the underweight guys. But doesn't really play bigger than his size in the passing game. Again, he has the get off. He gets after the quarterback. But yeah, so he actually could start. I'm starting to think he can slide. I've been mocking him around like this part, like 12 around there. But I've been watching edge rushers, a lot last night actually, and the night before. And I start to think, maybe teams might be a little scared to take him this early. So he could start to slide. So does that make it a little more realistic for the Titans? Could they move up in the second round? Could he drop all the way to them in the second round? I'm not really counting on it, but a possibility. Jets, I'm going to go with Jalen Carter. I think the Jets are probably more likely to go offensive line. They could move around with their first round pick, the 13th pick as well. But if Jalen Carter starts to slide a little bit, could they actually move up a little bit, or does he slide to them? I don't think they would pass on him, even though he's kind of declining to interview with these teams. So that might make teams like, we didn't get to talk to him, about figure out his off the field shit. So how could we take him? But I think the Jets would take a shot. I think they would. They're always looking for defensive tackles. I mean, pairing him with Quinnen Williams could be deadly. I don't think they would pass on him if he's there. Maybe they won't, if he starts to slide and maybe they want to hop a team or two, I can't rule out them trading up, but maybe for a guy they weren't able to, meet with in person with the off-the-field issues, maybe they wouldn't trade up for him. But I do love the fit and Robert Saleh's defense there. I don't think they would pass on him. And mainly looking at offensive line for them, but if they were to go defense, that would probably be the position, but this definitely would be the guy. Patriots, I think they're more likely to go offensive line as well, but at the first round. But Will McDonald, are they going to end up with Will McDonald? I guess where they sit in the draft, maybe not. I mean, it's a guy that's pretty rangy. You can go in the middle of the first round, or maybe you can go in the middle of the second round. Maybe they can snake him there, But I just love the fit. I mean, Will McDonald to me just screams Bill Belichick pass rusher. And they're pretty set with their starting pass rushers, so maybe you could say they don't need one. But, Judon's not going to be around forever. Uche's an upcoming free agent, and he's really just getting going because he was kind of an off-the-ball guy that was kind of transitioning into an edge rusher. And he's just getting going. So he's got a ton of upside. So I'd imagine they bring him back. But, I mean, Will McDonald's kind of that do-it-all type pass rusher as well. I think he would thrive in this in Bill Belichick's defense. Standing up off the edge, but he's got experience putting his hand in the dirt. He's got experience playing over or inside the tackle as well. Believe it or not, he's at 239 pounds, was a little lighter for pass rushers. He's actually got experience dropping in coverage, even kind of lining up as off the ball type guy. It just feels like a Patriots type guy. I think he's actually going to go earlier than what people think. I think he could go in the, most people are mocking him maybe early second. I think he can go mid to late first. But if he starts to slide late first, early second to the Patriots because they view him as such a good fit, do they move up to get him so you get a first-round talent around those parts? It made sense. Thought about going corner here. If they stay put where they're at, it could be tackle, offensive tackle. This one Will McDonald just screams like Patriots type pass rusher to me. So Packers and Van Ness kind of tells me Packers type pass rusher. They got a specific build that they're looking for. Looking at Rashawn Gary, looking at Preston Smith, looking at all the pass rushers they've had. They have Zadarius Smith in the past. They're all around, the same build there. And I think Van Ness kind of checks that box, the measurables, but play style as well, very physical, kind of high motor guy. He even could be kind of versatile a little bit, can move inside. And they've always liked the guys that, the Packers have been 3-4 defense for a bit now, but they've always liked the guys that were felt like they could be either, 3-4 or 4-3. Their body type almost in the physicality might actually say, if you had to pick one, maybe more 4-3, but the Packers take them. They put them at 3-4 edge rush, outside linebacker, and they end up being pretty good. So Van Ness kind of, all of the above, kind of says all the same things there. Like the measurables, I think he's pretty scheme versatile. Been watching more on him. He's a tricky one too. It's a boom or bust guy. Some people have him in the top 10. I don't think he goes that early. I could even see him going late first, but you see the upside, kind of the freaky ability. So somebody could take a shot at him around here, but maybe been hyped up a little bit, but I can see why at the same time. But the tape isn't fully there. It's kind of, you're basing it off of upside and what he can be there. But I do like the fit, kind of like the prototype of what the Packers look for in terms of pass rusher. If they are going to go defense, I'd imagine it'd be pass rush. Because, they could use another safety, but you're not going to take a safety around here. And then, Brian Branch is more of a slot guy. They have quite a few corners that can handle those duties. They could go offense here, but the defensive video. So that would probably thought about Nolan Smith because they liked the Georgia guys last year, so they could like him. It's possible, but I could see him just being too thin for their liking. They like more of the physical guys. Washington, this was an easy one to me. Brian Branch just feels like you there's some corners that you can go with, Banks, but Brian Branch I think is what they're looking for there. They move on from Bobby McCain, who was kind of a versatile defensive back that can man the slot. That's what Brian Branch is, but he's going to be better than McCain's been pretty solid. But Branch can be better than him day one, and he has the upside to go along with it. So very good in man coverage from the inside. I think Rivera would like that a lot. It's a possible, very realistic pick, which Branch I think people have been sleeping on a little bit too. I think people kind of had him in the middle of the first, and then he ran the 4.5s, which people some weird people think that's slow for some reason. I don't think he realized that that's actually really fast. And then we kind of moved him down to the back end of the first. I'd watch out for him in the middle of the first. I mean, I don't think he's going to get by. He could go late first, but I think that would be a steal down there. But we'll see. Steelers, I'm going to go with Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from Penn State. I think they'll probably target an offensive lineman, but they could go corner as well. There's a couple corners I like, and they could go Brian Branch to play the slot as well. But there's a couple corners I like for them. Joey Porter, and then Deonte Banks from Maryland. Steelers kind of been a man coverage team. I think Banks is a little better than Porter in man. Press man, I think he's more than a little bit better, but not that Porter isn't good. But yeah, we'll see. A couple years ago, it was weird. The Steelers actually ran a little bit more zone, and then they lose Sutton. They add Patrick Peterson, who's more zone now. Could they be going more zone again? And Porter was pretty good, playing a little bit of both, mixing it up a little bit. Wish there was more press snaps, but playing a good split of zone and man, which maybe the Steelers could go with instead of being just mainly man. But they could. Porter can still work if they want to be mainly man there. So, but I'm going to go with Porter for the Steelers as a possibility and a pretty good fit. Tampa, I'm going to go Brian Branch. We talked about him a little bit already. They lost some defensive backs. They're set at corner, but Brian Branch playing that slot corner spot and then also could fill in at safety if you need him to. Made a lot of sense. I wish he would go to primarily a man coverage team, which the Bucs have been some cover 3 recently. But Todd Bowles can bring back a little bit more man. Branch would fit that very well. If they do, they'll probably go offense, to be honest. But if they do go defense, looking at Branch and looking at maybe a pass rusher perhaps for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think they would go offense. You start talking about this is the kind of the range you talk about Hendon Hooker. Talk about some offensive linemen, whether it's tackle or guard, tight end, Mayer, Kincaid. It's kind of the range you start talking about those guys as well. Chargers, I'm going to go with Kalijah Cansey, defensive line from Pittsburgh. They definitely could use some more interior defensive line help. I think he'd play 3-4-N for them, kind of what they hope they would get from TYREE, but more athletic, more productive, more flashy, more of a fit in a Brandon Staley defense there. Maybe he kind of gives off a little bit of poor man's Aaron Donald vibes, and Brandon Staley knows what that's about, kind of looking for that type of player perhaps as well. So I think they'll probably go offense. Another team that they probably go offense, but it's a guy I like for them if they go defense. Ravens almost went Joey Porter Jr. Here as well. Could be gone. Banks could be gone. I like Banks a lot, but the sun's hitting me in the face now. But Banks from Maryland. But a good mixture of man and zone. I think he's better in man. The press ability is impressive, but I think he has upside in zone, and that's where you kind of can disguise some coverages. Like he can be press zone, which the Ravens were always running more man than anybody under Martindale. But under McDonald, they were kind of even last year. They were still a little bit more man, but that's because they had the players for that, and they're easing towards zone. But it's a good mixture, and I think that's what Banks could bring, even though he's kind of more known as a press man guy. But he's pretty good in zone as well, as some upside there. So there's a possibility too, because they added OBJ. They could still take a receiver. I wasn't really thinking they were going to take a receiver anyways the first round, so I don't know. I wouldn't predict that they will, but they could. They could go offensive line if they're looking for offense. Defense, they could go. I guess they could go a number of routes. Go D-line, pass rush. But I think corner they value it. So there's a high shot that they go that route. And speaking of Banks, we'll talk about him for a little bit. The Vikings. Okay, the good news for the Vikings is they have more than 2 fits, but there's 2 tremendous fits on defense right here. Deonte Banks and Brian Branch. They're just screaming Vikings, but mainly Brian Flores type guys, and what the Vikings need too. They could use another corner and inside guys. So it is it's very tough. Do I go Banks? Do I go Branch? It's kind of 50-50. So that's kind of good that you have either. I want Banks though. Really good press corner. If you need, and he's athletic enough to run with guys, and Flores is gonna run some cover 0. He's gonna leave his corners on an island, and I think Banks can handle those duties. But when Flores isn't running man coverage, whether it's cover 0 or cover 1, it seems like quite a bit of cover 3. Which, watching the tape, Banks actually known as more of a press man corner, but he actually had specifically cover 3 moments where I thought he stood out. One specific play, which actually was maybe my favorite play on his tape, even though it's hard not to say some of his press. Some of his, you can make a highlight tip of him pressing, so that could be your people's favorites as well. But so that's why, Branch, beautiful fit, but I think Banks. I mean, if you take all the fits in the first round, like every team, regardless of offense, defense, I mean, this might be one of like the top 3, 5. Like, yes, that is a beautiful fit. So Banks, Vikings is a big one there. Will he still be on the board? It's a possibility. Should be going around this range. I think he should go earlier than where people are talking, but we'll see. Jags, I'm gonna go Nolan Smith. Yeah, I watched Nolan Smith. I actually watched him 2 nights ago, and there's a lot of upside, but I'm kind of stock for me is kind of going down a little bit since the combine. Combine pushed it up, but he is impressive. The get off, the speed is ridiculous. He can actually stop the run very well. He can drop in coverage, but I think this is more of his range. Late 1 is more of his range to me. The Jags get unique kind of with their pass rushers. They lost Arden Key, who kind of moved around a bit, because Trayvon Walker, Georgia guy could move around a bit as well. And then Josh Allen's an upcoming free agent. I'd like to think they get him back, but he's gonna have to produce maybe more like 2 years ago this upcoming year. So they get Nolan Smith, who they kind of can work in all those guys together, and they're kind of looking out for the future here and some upside. They're going to go for upside and freakish ability here. So, but definitely a lot different than Walker, which they kind of can mesh together pretty well. So I went that route. We were talking about Deonte Banks a little bit. It's a great fit as well. And I don't know if he'll be here. I don't think he gets by the Vikings. But the Giants, they could trade up a little bit because they are looking for another corner. I think they would have signed Marcus Peters by now. Maybe they do sometime, maybe after the draft, depending on what happens. But Don Martindale and that defense, they're going to run more man coverage than anybody. That's just how it is. They're going to run man coverage. They want to be able to press. They want those physical corners that are athletic enough to run with guys. And that's what Deonte Banks is. So it's a perfect fit. It's an absolute perfect fit. You just might have to move up a little bit for him. So had to go Banks just because it's just a great fit there. Cowboys, I'm going to go Brian Brusley. I think they're more likely to go offense, whether it's offensive line, running back, tight end, perhaps. Defense is looking pretty good, but they could upgrade on the interior defensive line, but their defense is good enough where it's like they don't really absolutely have to upgrade. They got Odigizua. Brusley would probably start over him, but Odigizua is pretty solid. But can move around a bit, really flashy, has a lot of upside as long as he stays healthy. I think this is kind of a Jerry Jones type guy, and this is his range in the draft. So, again, I really think they go offense, but this was the fit. Could he start to slide a little bit? Could they trade up with their second-round pick and then, get somebody else with the first-round pick and get him? It's a possibility as well. So, they had a guy like this in there. That defense is looking real good. And we're going to go Brusley back-to-back. So I like him for the Bills a lot as well. They have a number of interior defense linemen that can play ball, but they're still looking for that guy. They don't. It's a little underwhelming, even though there's a lot of guys that can play. And again, they have a lot of guys, but they're all about to be on expiring deals on top of it. And there's talk about Oliver wants an extension, but the Bills, rightfully so, don't want to pay him probably what he's looking for. Do they trade him? Do they let him play out one more year? Let him go? Probably depends on how he plays this year. Or do they trade him before this year? I don't know, but all possibilities. But I think this would help them right now. They would get the better right now, and it's also looking out for the future. The rest of the defense, do they have giant needs? Replacing Edmonds, but you can take a linebacker here. Maybe. They could use another corner, but they just spent Elam's got a lot of potential. They spent the first-round pick on him last year. They traded up. So I'm looking at interior defensive line if they're going to go defense. I think they're probably looking at offensive line and maybe a receiver finally, but offensive line is really where I'm looking there for the Buffalo Bills. And the Bengals actually went a little bold here. I'd watch out for DJ Turner sneaking in the first round. I'm not going to guarantee anything at all, but he's moving up boards, and this is a really good fit too. He could go early second. We're at the back end of the first round here, so he could go late 1, but it's a really good fit. I mean, they drafted a Michigan guy last year who kind of played all over the place in the secondary, in Daxton Hill. That's really not why Turner's up here, but yeah, they're familiar with Michigan's defense and how they run things, so actually it does mean something. But yeah, Turner, he's a freak athlete. He's got good play, but why he's very solid is he played, not only did he play zone and man, but he played a lot of press as well. So press zone and press man, it's like an NFL style defense. And that's why that's why I like the Bengals defense. So that's probably number one on why I like their defense, is because they mix it up and disguise things with their coverages more than anybody. Nobody can ever figure out like what coverage they're in, because they run all of them pretty evenly. And their corners are playing press, but sometimes they're not just in man, they're in zone. It could be cover 2, cover 4. They mix it up so much. And I love that. But to be able to do that, you have to have the players that can do that. You don't have to have the freaky, most talented players. You got to have smart players that could that are versatile, can do multiple things. And DJ Turner to me is that. I mean, Michigan played zone and man. They played more zone. Bengals, I think, play a little more zone than man. But they ran press a bit too in both those, which the Bengals do. So, and the Bengals aren't worried about size. They're not worried about size when it comes to corner. They're not. The history shows to me, a recent history. So, Turner makes sense as a fit, scheme wise, kind of what they're looking for, all of the above. He's soaring up draft boards. He's got a good tape, freaky fast on top of it. So he could sneak out. It's a really good fit for the Bengals. Maybe they trade back a little bit. Maybe they target him in the second round. It's a possibility as well. I think it's a tremendous fit. Saints is another guy that's kind of being talked about in the second round more, but people are kind of sleeping a little bit. I think he could go late first. I mean, Foskey has all the measurables, the power, the athleticism. He's got the traits. He's got production in college. And the only downside is when he played like the best of the best, he kind of disappeared a little bit. But, Paris Johnson, when he went against a guy like that, he got outplayed. Paris Johnson's going to go in the top 10. But Foskey, the Saints got a type when it comes to pass rushers. They have to have, X amount of length, size. They usually like guys that got a little weight to them too. Like, Foskey's not huge, but I think there's like a cutoff on, they don't like Will McDonald kind of feels like a fit to me, like play style for the Saints, but I think he's too light. I don't think they would take him. But Foskey kind of checks all those boxes on what they're looking for there. They're not really afraid to go for the upside guy, which that's the thing about Foskey. Like he's got upside because if you kind of coach him up with some more pass rush moves, it's a little more to his game, and he already has production. What's the production going to be like? So to me, as a fit, I really like. I think he's got Saints written all over him. Could they have a middle of the second round pick, maybe a little earlier than middle of the second round? It's possible. It applies there too. They can get him there, and it's realistic, and that'd be a great pick. So, Foskey got to watch out for there for the Saints. And maybe going a little earlier than people are talking about. I think people are kind of off with these pass rusher rankings right now. I don't know, the consensus. The Chiefs can go Keion White. I don't know if I'd be thrilled about Keion White in the first round. The more I watch him, he's a project, but he's 24 years old. That's where you worry about him, but he can still make an impact right away because he can move around a bit. He can help stop the run. He's very physical. He's powerful, and he does. Even though he's 24, you say a 24-year-old can't have upside. It's tougher for the 24-year-old to have upside, but he has freaky upside because he hasn't been playing the position long, and he's kind of just getting going. He has those freaky moments, but the Chiefs like the bigger physical pass rushers. Karlaftis was a physical guy, but he's actually a little lighter than usually what the Chiefs go for, and he worked out for them. Then this is kind of like your Carlos Dunlap replacement. They did bring in a Menhu, who kind of is that guy too. But you don't know what you're going to get from him. How many snaps is he going to play? Is he going to start? Had that off the field issue pop up last year. But White just seems like their type of guy. I could go Foskey for them as well. I could go Enudike Uzama from Kansas State. A number of those guys you can go with as well. But Keion White just kind of felt like a Chiefs guy. I don't think I'm gonna have a first round grade on him though, but this is a first round potential guy here, so that they could take him, and I would like him better on the Chiefs than a lot of other spots. Rams, so teams that don't have a first round pick, could they get their hands on a guy that's being either as first round talent or is being talked about possibly as a first round player? And Keely Ringo, cornerback from Georgia, makes a lot of sense for me for the Rams. I thought about a few corners here. Julius Brents, Emmanuel Forbes. I mean, there's a few of them I like pass rushers too. Will McDonald, Nolan Smith if he starts to slide. Those guys feel like Rams pass rushers. B.J. Ojulari perhaps. But Ringo made a lot of sense to me. More zone than man at Georgia. Rams like to run a lot of zone. Maybe some similar measurables, athletic ability as Jalen Ramsey. You know, they're kind of looking for the traits type guy. Look at a guy like Robert Rochelle, was like in a raw. I mean, late, you know, it wasn't like an early pick, but just had the traits, like the tools that you were, you know. So they're looking for that type of guy. You know, Ringo has got good play already, but he's an upside corner at the same time that could line up at safety. He kind of gives you feels like maybe he can play pretty well there. And the Rams are kind of going in some sort of rebuild, so Ringo kind of being an upside guy that made some sense, and kind of some similarities. He's not Jalen Ramsey, but there's some similarities there, mainly with the build, I guess. Dolphins go Mozzie Smith, who potentially could sneak into the end of the first round. Really good interior defensive lineman from Michigan. I think he'd pair well next to Christian Wilkins. The Dolphins defense is pretty much set. Maybe could use one more guy on the inside there. Line up at nose tackle at times. So Mozzie Smith made some sense, and I think it's still realistic for them to get him if he starts to slide a little bit there. Broncos, I'm going to go Drew Sanders, which not a whole lot of talk in the first round. I think it's possible because he has that flashy talent. For me, I'm still watching. I'm on, watching edge guys and linebackers, but I've seen a bit of them already. And Sanders, I almost want to rank him with the edge rushers, because when he rushes off the edge, he's pretty damn good, and he has a lot of upside there. He's got some good production there. A lot of blitzing is some of his production from the inside as well. But he does miss tackles at the off-the-ball linebacker position. He missed way too many. So it's like, you got a weakness at the off-ball spot, a lot of upside this spot. So I'm kind of wondering if I list him at edge, but when it comes to the Broncos, this is a guy with pretty big range. Could go late one. I'm not really counting on it, but could go late one. If he did, I'd look out for the Giants, but because it's a good fit. But could go late one, or could slide a bit, like late two possibly. But I look at the Broncos, who don't pick to the third round. They have quite a few early picks there, though, that could move up, and they could use a linebacker. If you look at Vance Joseph's defenses, they always blitz. He has linebackers that blitz. He's had Isaiah Simmons, who's kind of like a versatile linebacker. You even saw him rush off the edge sometimes at Clemson. And you have Zaven Collins, who some thought maybe he'd be an edge rusher in the NFL because he can blitz, he can rush off the edge when you need him. So he needs a blitzing guy, which they don't really. They got guys that could, but they only have that upside guy there at the linebacker spot. But he's always had a type with guys that kind of can move around a bit. So that just screams Drew Sanders to me is a great fit. And again, Nick Bonito could be that guy because he played a bit off ball with Oklahoma too. But it's just said Drew Sanders is kind of telling me he's a Vance Joseph type guy, and he fits other teams as well, coaches. Browns, I'll go Isaiah Foskey, who's pretty rangy as well. I could see him going late one, or I really don't think he goes late two, but middle two. And the Browns actually, they don't have a second round pick, but they actually have 8 picks. So they can package them together and move back up into the second round. They have a type when it comes to pass rushers. They got to be physical enough to play the 4-3-N, but they have to have the traits. They have to have length. They have to have athleticism. And Foskey checks all those boxes. And I know they got Okoronkwo, but this is probably an upgrade. Maybe even day one too. But it's just a really good pairing with Myles Garrett. And again, the Browns have a type when it comes to pass rushers. I think Foskey fits that. Just where's he gonna go though? Because again, I could see him late one. I can see him middle two. We will see. And then the 49ers, the last one, I like Julius Brents, the cornerback from Kansas State, a lot actually for Steve Wilkes defense, and kind of with the 9, John Lynch as well. What he would draft at the cornerback position. Good zone corner, some good amount of reps in press, some man reps, but more of a zone guy. But and I think we'll see a bit of cover 3 from the 49ers, but they'll mix it up a little bit. Brent's with a lot of upside, freaky length. I mean, this is another rangy guy. We were just talking about a few of them: Drew Sanders, Foskey, but Brent's I can see late 1, and I can see early 3. Because he has the length. He's got some good play. He's got, he's familiar with like an NFL type zone defense as well. He could press, but yeah, something I don't like a lot I really dislike on tape is kind of him getting his head, or turning his body and getting his head around on the wrong side, like towards the receiver or down the sideline. That I can't get that out of my mind. Like that's something. Is it just kind of instincts, like in default mode he's doing that, or can we coach that out of him? Because if we can fix something like that, he can be great. Like he can be a first round player. But there's something that's kind of small in there that's driving me nuts. But the 49ers not picking to the third round, maybe he can slide a little bit. Maybe they package something together and move up in the second round, get a guy like that. It's a possibility as well. And again, he could go late 1. It's a possibility because it's freaky length and the explosive ability. A lot to work with there. Again, coming from like an NFL. I like that defense at Kansas State. He actually was at Iowa originally, who's like an NFL zone defense, and goes to Kansas State. I love the way their defense was coached this year. So. Yeah, dude, rangy. I mean, this might be the most rangy guy in the draft, actually. Now I'm thinking about it, like where he can, like I said, I'm going to say it a million times, but late 1, early 3, like really for a guy like Julius Brents. So we'll see. Probably in between there because the upside, the length, probably early 2, but we will see. We will see. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have a different opinion on a team or a player, you let me know in the comments, but we're always talking with you guys on Twitter, and there's always live news, rumors, updates on there, and there's bonus content for our Twitter subs. And we'll be live during day 1 right here. During day 1. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full NFL coverage here. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.